All right, so welcome to another episode of Therapy JA. Today we have, I guess that we had a really good discussion the last time, so I'm just bringing him back so we can continue the discussion. It's Dr. Shane Mark Tull, therapist, motivational speaker, very much an advocate for mental health. He's talking to me from Atlanta. Dr. Tull, how you doing, man?
Hey man, what's going on? How are you?
I'm good, man. Give God thanks, just giving God thanks for every day.
That's what we should be doing all the time, all the time. Yes.
Yeah. So today I wanted to discuss just some some very general questions on like mental health, and I'd love to hear your insights. So we can kind of start can we talk about like confidentiality and like how do therapists normally ensure like a safe and trusting environment for like their clients?
I think confidentiality is really big, especially in our part of the world where confidentiality is not really honored, but I think confidentiality is the cornerstone of the therapeutic relationship. So the therapist must do everything to ensure that. It is important that they create a safe space that will not be intruded or interrupted. Their records should be collect. When they do notes, it should be locked away in a place where there's no distract, where no one can get access to that. I think one of the barriers for mental health in our part of the world is because of confidentiality.
Mm.
Because people feel that if they come, excuse me, if they come and tell their business, somebody will repeat it or they'll hear it somewhere else. So it is important that we assure the client that there are a safe space is not just being in a safe place where no one can harm you. It's also creating an environment of trust and ensuring that happens. If you finish taking your notes, you lock it away under lock and key, and there should be protocol and procedures of who have access to that information, who have access to your chart, and what reason someone should have access to that. It is also important in confidentiality that we disclose that there are only two reasons that we have to break confidentiality is if we believe that the client is going to harm themselves or the client have told you they will harm someone else.
Mm.
Those are the only reasons that to break confidentiality.
Have you ever had a situation like that?
I'm sorry.
Have you ever had a situation like that where you've had to break confidentiality?
Oh yeah. If I assess that a client was going to harm themselves or I feel that they were in danger, I would. Or if a client told me directly, I'm going to hurt someone or I'm going to do something that's destructive to the public, it's we call it a duty to warn. You have to let someone know. Yeah.
Mm, mm. Um, so I'm kind of curious. Have you ever had a situation because I feel like suicide is your um like you deal not with like you deal well with suicidal patients and stuff. Have you ever had a situation where you felt like you directly changed a patient's life?
In what way? In terms of dealing with the situation or
Yeah, it doesn't
supporting
have to
them
be
through the
suicide.
crisis?
Yeah, it does. I'm sorry, the way I led the question, but no, it doesn't have to be suicide. But in general, have you ever had where you felt like you saved a patient's life or you improved the person's like life
And
in terms of their wellness and their all around being?
yeah, I think you may not see that immediately, but I'm always thrown by I might be in a supermarket or a shopping mall or in a different country or in a different state, and someone will come up to me and say, "Do you remember me?" And trust me, I don't. And they'll begin to regale, like, I saw you when you were in New York and I was a patient and you were so helpful, or, I heard your podcast, or you were being interviewed on the radio or the TV, and the things you said really resonated to me, and I was able not only to share that with myself, but my partner or my husband or my wife, and that helped us to have a conversation around issues that we were having. So
Mm.
it's not like, you see a patient for 5 weeks and then they come back and tell you, oh, my life has changed. It's really, and sometimes that happens too, but for the most part, like you would run into someone 5 years later, you completely cannot remember them. Or I remember there are some young men that came up from certain parts of Africa seeking asylum, and they come and see you, and you do your psychological evaluation. They send it into to immigration, and then they get their asylum. And like 5 years later, they'll just show up at my office. I just graduated from college. I just have this job. I just want to thank you for supporting me through this process. So yeah, it's not the gains are not immediate, but they're far between. But when it happens, it really resonates with you.
Mm. Okay, cool. I wanted to tell you this. So I remember the discussion we had, right? And funny enough, my sister, one of her friends from like New York, her sister like committed suicide. And the way how she did it was very textbook to what we were discussing in terms of she was verifying the days earlier. She said, yo, she spoke to her on the phone. You know what I mean? She was verifying. And she just drove, like, she drove to like Virginia and just jumped off a bridge. And she was just like, family was devastated. They were shocked. They didn't understand. Um, the mother. So like, I think my sister said she actually left a note. Like they found a note like after, but like the mom is in a sense of denial in terms of she's very upbeat. Um, you know what I mean? Like they gave her ashes because she was in like they couldn't. The body was So they gave her ashes and she just like brought her ashes to her parents' house and just left them in like the closet. Like so she has not like dealt with it. Like what causes that in terms of that denial for parents and how is it like is that a healthy thing and how do they deal with that? Like is it something because I know people have denial in terms with certain things in their life. Is that a healthy way of processing?
I think immediately after the shock of the event, denial can be a protective mechanism for us, where we're able to manage in a way that we don't like exactly break them or fall apart, but eventually it happens. So denial is not always a bad thing. It could be this thing that helps us to protect our psyche and our
Mm-hmm.
emotions, and eventually she'll get there. But I would definitely encourage her peers and her support system to encourage her to get help, to
Mm.
talk to someone, to deal with the trauma, to be upset. Because I think as a parent, you blame yourself. And I think that's one of the, I mean, that's one of the school of thought about suicidality and when someone dies by suicide. Because there's a school of thought that, the person is selfish because of what they leave the family in, because you really cannot predict what's going to happen. Like you said, she was upbeat, perfect. She spoke to everyone. So that's why when someone dies by suicide, the community is left in this state of complete shock and disbelief. And you can't imagine what a friend of hers is going through, much more her parents. It is devastating.
Mm.
It's devastating to lose a child, but I think it's even more devastating to lose a child in such one would consider a horrific way. So
Mm.
this parent is really going through a really turbulent, horrible time. So it's important that the people in her surrounding be a support system to her instead of ignoring the fact that she's in denial, but casually engaging the conversation and encouraging her to get help and to talk about how she feels. I think we come from a religious background that we're angry and we're hurt and we're probably mad at God, but we can't say that we are because we feel that that's flying in the face of God. And I tell patients that God is strong enough; He can take it. He can take you being mad at Him. He can take you questioning Him. But it is through Him that you will get through this. Because I believe that a combination of therapy, maybe some medication, and prayer, and really being grounded in your faith. These are the things that gets us through every crisis. So I would definitely encourage her to, if there's some support groups, even online, that she can join and just hear the testimony of other mothers going through. What happens with that? She doesn't feel alone. She doesn't feel isolated. She have some support, and it kind of makes sense of what she's feeling.
Um, well, that's gonna be a while. Though. That's like months or so down the line, eh?
Probably or weeks, but not only the mom, the sister, the nieces, the nephews, the whole community is is severely impacted. Friends impacted by what happened. You could be impacted by what happened just by hearing it, because there's something called secondary trauma that we live and relive.
I think so. Like even when I was like like sharing the content, I felt so afraid to share this content about like suicide and that type of stuff because I felt like even just because even I know the content is helpful and people like it, but I am so just like the fear of being judged or that stigma of it being attached to the person of like, boy, why do you care about this type of stuff? You know what I mean? So it's still
But
something I
but it's a
myself. Sorry, go ahead.
it's a burdensome topic. It's scary because we really don't know the predictors or how to prevent it. The only way to prevent it is by really reaching out and having these conversations and letting people know that it's okay to feel what you're feeling. Creating spaces where someone could come in and talk freely about how they feel without judgment. It's important to think of the pain we're going through after this event has happened. That person is going to, and it's important that you hear this. That person is going through 100 times the pain that we're feeling collectively that got them to that point. It's important to realize that people that die by suicide, they do not want to die. They just want that pain to stop. The measures they take to stop the pain is what ends in their death. So it's important for us to realize that the pain that we're in does not compare in there's no comparison to the pain that person was going through. And I try to help survivors get a sense of that as bad as you're feeling, multiply that by 10. That's what your loved one was feeling. And it gives you some perspective of what that person was going through. But it also makes us feel even more helpless because why didn't I see that? And why wasn't a space created that they felt comfortable that they could come and talk to me and just get the support they need? That's why it is so important that we're vigilant about this.
What? Why don't they want to like talk or share it? What is it?
I think they believe that no one understands.
No one
When you
understands. You
and I,
said.
no one, they believe that no one will understand them. It's not the it's not the issue that drives them to not have the conversation. It's the pain. It's the pain associated with that no one will understand them. On a normal day, you and I go through a crisis. We have this hope that tomorrow things will get better. For
Yeah.
them, tomorrow things will be worse. So I can't live until tomorrow. The pain is overwhelming. I need to do something now to stop the pain. So it's a very intricate, complex phenomena. The whole issue of suicidality. So we need to. The more we talk about it, it's how we normalize the conversation, and we make it feel safer for people to come and say, I've been feeling that way, or this is the way I feel. And I like I always say, every podcast, radio show I do, TV show I do, someone always reach out, especially on this topic, saying, because I heard what you say, or somebody told me what you said, or somebody sent me your book, or we had a discussion after I hear your conversation.
Mm.
It was meaningful. It resonates with me. So that's why I really believe that it's important that we continue to have these conversations. They're very uncomfortable. They're very burdensome, but it's important that we do it. Yeah.
It's not uncomfortable for me to talk about it. It's a lot more uncomfortable for me when I'm like sharing it amongst my peers. That is when I'm like, because trust me, whenever I've done it, the question people always ask is, why, like, like, why do you care about something like this? Or you know what I mean? Like, are you sad? Like, why is this a topic? And I just think, to me, it was just it was a topic that wasn't being spoken about, and I felt like it was something that there wasn't anything like it in the Caribbean or in Jamaica around me. So I was like, it's something I like. I like talking to therapists. I like hearing those type of discussions about vulnerability and emotional. Like, I think you said it prior. You were like, vulnerability is a superpower. You know what I mean? So I think especially amongst men, there needs to be a space as this. You know, I interviewed a guy a couple weeks ago. He's bipolar, and just he was just basically breaking it down of how he went through that process. Man, it was such a like it was just like to hear him be so open about his issues, and like him take medication. It took him 2 years to get to that level. Of being like, oh, like finding the right dose. You know what I mean? Those type of topics and those type of conversations in itself is not something you see that much at all. And I feel like there's a need for it. So I just had, it's just something I have to do.
Especially in our community, we don't talk about it.
Yeah,
And
we
I
don't.
think one of the things we need to understand is that psychotropic medication is not a it's not an antibiotic. It's not something you take for 10. It's not something you take for 10 days and you start feeling better. The medication doesn't start working after 21 to 28 days. And sometimes you have to change medications 3 different times until you get the one that works for you.
Wait, it
So
doesn't really
that
start
that
working.
also brings on the frustration of, I'm taking these meds but I'm not feeling better, or I'm taking these meds and I'm feeling worse.
So hold on. So wait, it for it to actually register takes 21 days after you
Yes,
take
that's
it.
when after you start taking it. Yeah.
Why does it
So
take
it
so
does,
long?
because it's a neuroleptic. It's dealing with your brain, so it takes time. It's not an antibiotic that, hey, you get an infection, you take this, you're good. No, it takes some, and for a lot of people, after the 21 days, you may realize it's not working for you. You have to go back to the doctor and get another one. That, or a combination thereof. So it will work. So you have to be uh, like, one of the things we have to do is educate patients about psychotropic medication. It takes time. You may have to change, you may have to add another one, and then it still takes some more time. So really supporting not just the patient but the family, helping them understand, because a lot of times the family bring the patient back. Oh, we've been giving them the medication, but they're not doing better, or they're doing worse. And we have to explore, okay, or maybe we need to try something else. Okay.
Wow, I'm just like I did not know that. I didn't know that it took so long for it to work.
Yeah,
Wow.
it does.
Uh, okay. So then like okay, so because I'm seeing that in like a family member of mine that's taking stuff for dementia, and well, not dementia, just like some, it's like a psychotropic, and it's we were just like, boy, how, why, he would still make certain comments, and we're just like, okay, what's going on? Like, is it working? Like, what is the deal? So I did not realize it took like 21 days for it to actually have an effect. But he's now becoming very lucid, thank God. But he still will make certain comments, and it's like, like it's like, oh, okay, you know what I mean?
But also make sure he's engaged in some kind of talk therapy, that he's seen a therapist, because they work better hand in hand. And that's the challenge. That's the challenge.
Yeah, he's not gonna do that.
The medication alone doesn't work. The medication works in a way, but with psychotherapy, you have a better chance, because what you do in the talk therapy, you help it helps you to understand why you're in the state you're in, and explore some of the reasons and the root of why you where you are. So I think those are important things to understand and to engage in, and to encourage not just him but the family around him to support him in that.
I mean, yeah, I think family. It's funny in certain cases. Yeah, family, especially in issues like that, family does continue to support and be there for the person. You know what I mean? Like they still will, and they will always be there to support. Um,
But being there
like,
is one thing, but being there in a therapeutic sense, where the family is able to also have some family therapy.
oh,
With yeah,
like group therapy.
yeah, yes, yes. That makes a big difference, because what happens, we educate the family on the diagnosis and give them all the information they need, so they understand what's happening. If they understand what's happening, they can support the patient better. Okay, and not only that, the family also needs support, because what if the patient is the one that's tearing up the house and just
Yeah.
break? How do you sue? You may take them, put them in the hospital, but then they're going back home to do the same thing 2 weeks later. So how do you support that family, helping them understand these are things that you can do to support him or her, to de-escalate or prevent these things from happening again and again.
So I think a lot of times Jamaicans have a stigma of mental health as that madhouse and people are lose them temper and thing. How widespread is that type of mental illness? Is that like a majority of like, or is it minor? You know what I mean? Like I think people have a perception, and my thing is to break that stigma. So is
Mhm.
mental health a common thing, like, or is it like a something that happens consistently?
It happens to everyone. It's just how you respond. You and I can have the same experience, but how you respond to it could be completely different. Like, somebody could be doing well, they're in a relationship, or their marriage fall apart. You Normal person may be sad for a few months, but they kind of get themselves back together. Some people, they're devastated and they cannot get over that. Or, I mean, like I always make the analogy, like, how did you feel after your first love fell apart? Like, or you were a teenager and some girl broke your heart. It's not like you could go home and it's not like you had that support that you could go home and cry to your mom or your dad. No, you had to suck it out. But for some young men, that experience has tarnished them. One, because not it was just not the hurt, was that they had no way to talk about it and to really express the hurt they feel. What and the messages they got, if they tried, get someone else, move on, it's easy. But for some young men, they're devastated, because a young woman, she'll have her heart broken. She goes home, she cries with her mom and her sisters, and that's a therapeutic healing process. Young men does not have that agency, doesn't have that support system.
I think okay, so hold on, because I think so, but I have had many. Well, I mean, I don't know if I'm different, but man, look, when I'm going through stuff, especially if it's dating, that's it. Like, and yet relationships, I'm calling my friends like, yo, bro. or sending them text messages like, "Yo, look what this girl said to me in this text." Like, like no man, I don't know because I feel like nowadays I think you have a movement that is like men are very much kind of like they will talk about that type of stuff. I don't know how. I feel like at one point, yeah, we used to be very much like when I was a teenager. Yeah, that was the thing. Man, not talk to them bridging about that. But I think no, no, sir. You show it to your bridging and you say, yo, bro, like,
I am happy to hear that.
yeah,
What
because
are
like,
what are the response you get though?
I mean, my friends are very understanding still. My friends are different. So my friends kind of come from a space of like self improvement, vulnerability. Men can improve themselves. Men talk about their feelings. So it's not deep where them talk about them stuff. I'm very much a vulnerable person. So and like if you're my friend, like my close friend, I'm gonna tell you like, yo, this is what I'm going through. But in general, when it comes to girls and dating, like, but I don't know. I think um
But
I don't know if it's I don't know if I'm the average guy in terms of, and I don't mean that like in a way to be cocky, but I think in the way of how I think about dating,
mhm.
because I like relationships, because I really spent years of like understanding it and like understanding the dynamics of dating and
So
gender dynamics
you
and social dynamics are like I'm very much like if I get hurt, I'm showing my friends and I'm like, yo, she did this. And they're like, damn, really? She did that? And then like we talk through it and we'll move on. You know what I mean? I'll probably talk to my therapist about it as well. Like, yo, this bitch did this to me. You know what I mean? But
you
like I
you
don't
you
think
have a unique support system, and that might just be because of education level and class level. But I do foresee that a young kid from the ghetto having that kind of access and support with their friends. So education and class really helps us to understand ourselves better because we have the gift of communication and using appropriate words and the right words. But for most people, they don't have that. Most people don't have that, and those are the folks we have to be concerned about. The fact that you have this unique support system that is honorable, and I really hope that spreads throughout more Black men, and we're able to cultivate that space. But within that space, for us, we're lucky. But look, the ones that don't have the language to use to say, okay, I feel blank, whatever you want to put, word you want to put there, and have a support system that said, hey, I understand you, I hear you, I'm here for you.
so okay, what do you recommend for guys in that space? Because I think even some churches, well, no, I can't even say some churches because I feel like I had this happen recently where I try to have that approach of being very vulnerable and open, and I think when for some people they take it as weakness. Like if you're constantly coming to people about, oh, this is what I'm going through, they're like, yo, why you don't man up and solve it? So like they'll see you as weak. You know what I mean? So, and I had that happen in the church. I didn't have that happen outside. Like I didn't have that happen. I had that happen in the church. So what exactly do you think? Do you recommend for men then? What's the approach you think for to solve this issue?
We really have to create our own space. We have to speak up in the church and let them know that spirituality and mental health, sometimes they go hand in hand, but they're two really different things. And pastoral counseling is not mental health expertise. So the church needs to be open up to work in concert with trained mental health experts. So the congregation will feel free to go and get the help they need. And that does not mean that you don't go to your pastor or you don't seek that spiritual support. But for the most part, people need a skilled mental health professional to work with them. And most mental health professionals will tell you that There's nothing wrong with spirituality. There's nothing wrong with praying. There's nothing wrong with seeking the support of your pastor if you're getting the right support. Because I've encountered pastors giving not the best advice. So that's also, yeah, that's also important. That, I've had situations where couples are going through domestic violence, and the pastor's telling them, "Oh, you can't leave your husband."
Yeah, to stay, of course.
That is criminal. That pastor is a mandated reporter that should be reporting this man or whomever is perpetrating the violence. So those are the things that I think it's kind of hard to get the church on board to support mental health. But I do believe that it's a mandate that we should thrive for. Mental health can work in concert with the gospel. It really can. Because those are the principles that mental health is about. It's about people having a sense of salvation and equilibrium of their lives, and that's what the gospel is about. So really, it really matches, I think, where the problem comes in, the ego of the pastor. It's a power dynamic. It's a power struggle. They do not feel comfortable with someone coming in, which is really an added value to what you can offer your congregants. Because the pastor can't see everybody, can't solve everybody's problem. But the conflict rises if there is a mental health person in the church and someone comes and say, "Hey, I'm being abused." That person has to call the cops. And if there any value to their profession, they would, as opposed to pastors or literally telling women go home and pray.
Or stay,
Now,
read the Bible, and
or
stay in
step,
the relationship and work it through.
yeah.
Yeah, and because
So
sometimes it's not
it's
physical abuse, sometimes it's emotional abuse.
abuse is abuse. So when the pastor goal is to keep the flock together, the therapist's goal is to keep this person safe and to empower them to be a whole person. And I really believe that's the tenet of the gospel, so that we will be whole and experience life in an authentic space through Christ.
I didn't know you were like serious about Christianity, honestly.
Oh no, listen, I could not survive without. Well, I would say more spirituality than Christianity, 'Cause-
What
but I do understand the dynamic, huh?
what's the difference? Spirituality and Christianity.
I think for me, spirituality is something personal. Christianity is more of a religion and participating in going to church, and not that the church is there to be infested by rodents, but it's been my experience some of the most disagreeable, contemptuous people I've encountered are people that sit in those pews every Sunday.
Yeah, it's been the same experience for me.
And my heart, I just can't go to church every Sunday and congregate with that. That would stifle my spirit.
Okay, so hold on. So I'm gonna tell you a situation where I had an issue. I had a conflict in the church. I had a conflict with leadership, and so I've grown up in the church. My father was a pastor. Um, yeah, I've grown up in the church. It's what I know. And I had a conflict, and I saw my father have conflicts in the church as well. And I think it was hurtful because church hurt is the worst hurt. But even though it was hurtful, I said I need the church more than the church needs me. So what I did instead was I simply left. I just decided to say I'm going to find another church because it doesn't make sense to be like, because a lot of things, what happens with a lot of people is they have church hurt and they leave the church completely. And I always say, like, it's like you go to a restaurant, you have a bad experience at a restaurant, you don't swear off all restaurants and decide you're going to eat food at home only. You simply just find another restaurant. Because as I said, I need the church more than the church needs me, and I need that fellowship and need to be in a church family. It's I left a church. I didn't leave the church. But trust me, I was tempted because the hurt was very hurtful, and especially in a place where you're expecting it to be you're expecting it to be a safe place for your vulnerability,
Yes.
and it turns out it's not. That can hurt, and that can hurt a lot of people. But as I said, I just understood because I've seen it close up. Growing up in the church, I've seen it close up, and I've lived abroad, gone to church there, come back church here as well. And I know, like, it's rough when you see that judgment, and but you have to just be like, people are people. You have that type of judgment in home. The stories I've heard of people telling me of bad experiences with therapists. Oh, one sister in tell me one therapist tell her said she need forget an aggressive man. Just ignorance, but you just understand people are people. So I feel like we all have bad experiences, but I don't think to allow that to stifle your faith. Like, cause bad experiences, like, it happens, like, it really does. But trust me, there's so many churches out there you can easily find a family where you're accepted and where you can grow. Don't let that, because I had that experience recently, and when I just said, say my left, and I mean, I reconcile to the point where you can reconcile, but then you just said, no, man, like, I've done all I can. The ball is in their court. Let me move.
I tell people always find a space where you can rejoice on Sunday morning.
All right, so I'm gonna do a segment called Ask a Therapist. So I posted this on Instagram, so I'm gonna send you some questions that people have. They get like a situation, and you can give advice to it. So here's one. I am living with my boyfriend. We do not have children. I am not working, so he pays all the bills. I am a kept woman. When he comes home in the evenings, he likes to see me looking pretty. I have his meals ready, but sometimes, even before he goes to the table, he wants to take me to another table. He calls me several times during the day to find out how I'm doing and if anybody has come by to see me. He says that he trusts me, but I ask him if he trusts me, why is he worried about people coming by to see me? This man doesn't even want male relatives in the house. I am not doing anything for him to be worried about. Sometimes his sisters pop in on me and I am not expecting them. I have caught this man going through my things, including my cell phone, so I put a password on it. And now he's upset because he says I'm hiding something from him. Is it wrong to have a password on my phone? I'm playing it cool because I'm waiting to get a call from the embassy for an interview. I don't want this man to know anything about it because he will try to stop me. I had a boyfriend and he caused my boyfriend and I to break up. That is why I'm living here with him. My ex-boyfriend doesn't know where I'm living, and every day I have to stay in this house with all the windows up, watching television, and most times without wearing much clothes, waiting on this man to come home. The good thing about it is that every cent that he gives me, I can save because he pays all the bills. But I am not a very happy girl. I want to get out of this place.
What is your
Ask her,
advice?
ask her to read that 3 times and tell you what she thinks. It's clear.
So you think she should leave?
This is, she's submitting herself to be a prison. She don't have to stay. Why is she staying? Yeah.
Some people don't know them words. All right, here's our
Next one. I'm a 52-year-old man and I'm living with a woman, but we don't have good communication. She's only 1 year older and has more education. Sometimes when I try to talk to her about anything, she hisses her teeth and tells me that I am not making sense. She has done that even before my friends and caused me to feel embarrassed. I do not have a degree like her, but I have common sense. My mother and father were not educated, but they showed us children how 2 people can live together in peace and harmony. My woman has never married, but she has 1 daughter who left for college, lived on campus, and never came back home to live with her. Now and then she stops by to see her. Because of this woman's attitude toward me, I have kept a side chick. She does not embarrass me. If I make a mistake, she quietly talks to me about it whenever we are alone. She talks to me about my parents. My woman will come to bed in the long nighties her granny used to wear, and with lots of hairpins in her hair. Sometimes when I need her, she turns her back to me. So sometimes I lie and tell her I'm going to play dominoes, but I go to spend time with my side chick. It is costing me lots of money to keep another woman, but I do not want to give up this other woman because of what I get from her. At the moment, I am paying half of the rent for my side chick, and I give her her money for her pocket. As I said, it is expensive, but I feel comfortable having her. I told this woman that I'm giving her until the end of year to change her attitude towards me. Otherwise, I'm going to leave her for another woman. If she doesn't change, I will move in with my side chick and make the relationship permanent. Do you agree with me?
You might as well move now.
Really? You feel like if somebody
She,
dates a side chick, then the relationship will last?
she's not going to change.
But it's him side chick though. I've never seen somebody turn them side chick to them permanent and it work out.
Remember, people find solace where it's available. There's a train of thought that men cheat because I think people cheat because where they get validation and understanding. Remember, he said the side chick doesn't make him feel stupid or make him feel bad. She listens, she communicates, and that is really the cornerstone of every relationship, communication. And it takes two people to communicate. And you have to find some medium where you understand that person or you can hear them and see them, or you feel that that person sees you and hears you and understands you. So he doesn't mind the expense. Look the comfort he's getting.
Yeah, because you still make him feel special. I guess that's how enough man end up in a like side chick relationships because they feel like the woman is giving him, giving them validation and making them feel like a man.
Correct. Everyone wants to be validated. Everybody, especially by the people that are important to us. If you're in a relationship and that person don't see you, don't validate you, or don't make you feel important or consequential, you might be in the wrong relationship.
But you don't think it could be fixed though? Because I don't think women are going to disrespect you just because of that. From my experience, women disrespect if you don't set boundaries or if you don't it's like
anyone with disrespect.
Huh?
Go ahead. Anyone with disrespect, if you don't set boundaries, you gotta set boundaries.
If you don't set
boundaries. Because I feel like women will always test you to say like, are you, you're man enough to deal with them, and if you if you don't like stand up and there's always like minor things, you know what I mean? They'll be like, yo, buy me food, and you just meet her, yo, buy me drinks, and if you don't be like, no, I don't buy drinks for strangers, you know what I mean? Then it's kind of like you just end up being a pushover, and that's when they don't respect you. But is it possible to fix that though? Because I'm sure she respected him if they're together.
If they both are in agreement that there's a problem, they both have to agree that there's an issue, and we both have to be committed to addressing whatever that issue is and finding ways to work through it.
Okay.
A relationship takes two people.
Facts. All right, one last ask a therapist question. Okay, this one's funny. I'm in my early 20s and I have a boyfriend. I really love this man because he cares for me. I can rely on him for everything I want. I met him while I was in high school. He told me he loved me, and at the same time, my girlfriend, who was my best friend, told me she loved him too. He chose me over her, but this girl and I are still very good friends. She now has a boyfriend and her boyfriend is planning to marry her, but he wants her to live with him and agree to get pregnant by him before he marries her. She said he's always telling her that his father told him that before he gets married, he should get the girl pregnant. She does not want to get pregnant because he may impregnate her and not marry her. Her boyfriend is a policeman. He is handsome, but he does not like to spend money on her. It seems as if he does not trust her. My boyfriend trusts me. I have never cheated on him. I'm going back to school because I would like to be a pharmacist, but I am short on subjects. I don't have to tell my boyfriend to use the condom when we are having sex. I have the condoms. I know the brand he likes us to use, so I don't have any problem with that. I keep the condoms in a special place. My mother saw them and she counted how many I had there. One day we were talking and she said to me that I am having sex too often. When I asked her how she knew that, she said she noticed that the condoms I have in my underwear drawer are running out. I told my mother that I would appreciate some privacy in my drawer. My brother has his own room and his girlfriend visits him. She stays with him in his room. When my boyfriend comes, I used to leave with him and come back. But now that he's paying my bills, he sleeps with me at any other houses. My father died from a heart attack. My mother is unable to work, but she gets a little pension. However, my brother and I take care of her. My boyfriend treats her like his own mother. What do you think?
Therapy.
Huh?
Family therapy. Everybody needs to be in a therapist's office. And once again, setting healthy boundaries.
Yeah, that one there is a soap opera.
Yeah.
I can't
The
imagine
only,
if with my in my parents' house. You can't do that.
how about that? Oh, that's the first thing. Okay. So
I mean,
clearly,
some parents cool like that, but my parents, no.
hell no, not my parents. It's yeah, but maybe it's a generational thing. Maybe I think younger people are, or maybe younger parents are more accepting or open-minded. But generation, it's different. Yeah, they need some healthy to set some healthy boundaries around what's appropriate and inappropriate behavior.
Yeah,
Or
but
she needs to move out and find her own
she's one of the
space.
she definitely needs to move out.
Yep, and find her own space. Gotcha.
I
All
feel like
righty.
she does that. Huh?
Yeah, but interesting.
Yeah.
Who?
It's
Where
just
do you
a
get these
segment I was
questions?
trying. Huh?
Where do you get these? Where do you get these questions from?
Twitter.
Twitter, really?
Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, man. All right. I guess that is it. I feel like I know you have other things.
Once again, thank you so much, Dr. Shane Mark Tull. This was very educational. I really enjoy our talks. We covered many different range. Folks, once again, if you have any questions, you can contact Dr. Shane Mark Tull. He has a new book out, the Mental Health Pandemic.
Pandemic, correct.
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, he has a new book
No.
out, the Mental Health Pandemic. Check it out. It's on Amazon. We post the link in the description. Check it out as well. Follow him on Instagram. Really has some very good perspectives and is very vocal about mental health. So support him and check him out, guys. Once again, thank you. Check us out every week. We'll post our next interview every week. And have a good day. Take care.
Thank you for doing this. Keep the message out there. Great job. Thanks.